Okay, we'll start. Welcome to AI for Mining, webinar number 2. I'm the host, Nermina Harambasic. Through these events, we want to bring AI technology to mining industry and promote their adoption. Today, we are joined by Michael Hartley of Interknowlogy. Michael will guide us through the process of optimizing operational excellence. Michael is Managing Director for Mining and Energy, and we are more than happy to hear from Michael what the AI technology developed by Interknowlogy can do for mining industry. Michael, it's all yours.
Thanks so much, Nermina. I think very useful for me to help set some context. Pardon me. And if those who are on the call can just simply enter in the chat what role you have and where you're calling in from, that would be great information for me to be able to use throughout the presentation. So whilst everyone's doing that, I'll build off of Nermina's introduction introduce myself. So as Nermina mentioned, I'm the Managing Director of Mining and Energy of Interknowlogy. We're an AI and performance visualization company based in North America. We operate at the intersection of risk management, human factors, and data science to connect people with information through two ways. One, our performance visualization platform, which many of you would recognize from the CNN election wall. So we're taking that decision-making experience and bringing that to the mining and energy sector, as well as our AI product, what we call our Caddy, which I'll introduce today, which we've been able to implement into the biotech and oil and gas sectors. So thank you very much for joining us. Now, Nermina, just as a process, I haven't seen anyone enter in anything in the chat yet. So I'll ask again, if you could please just let us know where you're calling in from, sure. That would be useful.
So chat box is at the bottom of the screen on the right-hand side. Okay, one thing that we know for sure, Michael, everybody is connected to mining industry. So
wonderful. Oh, I see Philip. Philip, nice to see you virtually. Philip and I used to work together at Barrick way back.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, so Philip set the example, so I think we can all follow Philip's example and enter in where you're coming from in the sector we all serve. Oh, hi Heather. Nice to see you as well. All right, I will, excuse me, I'll get started and bear with me while I share our screen here. Okay, I'll assume that everybody can see my screen. And just a little bit about myself. I've come to Interknowlogy through various industries and my own technology company. So I started my career in the manufacturing space in the US and the UK. I spent 10 years with Shell at their headquarters in the North Sea, North Caspian Sea. I started out as a human factors engineer, which is a way to say that I was focused on optimizing human performance at work. And what I really took a passionate view on was how do we create decision-making environments that help decision makers up and down the organization make the critical decisions that they take day in, day out. After my time in oil and gas, I was enterprise risk manager for Barrick Gold for about 5 years, supporting all of the functions and assets. And my time with Barrick said that we have a scalable problem when it comes to connecting people with information, making that information accessible and useful. I then started my own company, Mindtel, which is an enterprise risk management technology company. And then we merged with Interknowlogy about 18 months ago. And so we're very happy about to be able to demonstrate some of the work that we're doing, and also take a look at how we've been able to accelerate the journey that I've been on over my career to make that performance information accessible and useful for decision makers. Yeah, very much this technology is a product of not my career, but a crusade I felt I've been on over the years. And I'm delighted to be able to share that with you. So I'll let you read this quote, but this quote struck me because this is really what we're all challenged about, particularly in the mining sector. It's not what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. Now, if I can ask, this is the opening scene of a 2015 movie. Can anyone name that movie? Just put that into the chat, please. So again, it ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so.
So there is an exam, Michael. He never told us about that.
No exam. I'll ruin the surprise. This is actually from The Big Short. And Big Short was a great film that looked at all of the challenges that go into understanding how all of these controls in a complex system are working, and how can we surface information about those things that we know that just ain't so, to carry on with Mark Twain's quote. So with that in mind, we think about what that means for us right now. And the change we're all facing is this confluence of the fact that we've moved out of the production economy and into the transition economy, and the introduction of artificial intelligence. And what that means decision-making wise is that we have to be able to consider not just the throughput, output, cost schedule of a mining organization, but we also have to look at the quality of the inputs, the byproduct of the process, the value of the outcomes, and the nobility of the effect that we have as an organization, not just to our shareholders, which we were so focused on in the production economy, but to our stakeholders who we now serve in the transition economy. Challenging that further is the past is now a poor predictor of the future. We have less reliable models. And therefore, we're operating in a complex organization, not a complicated one. And so this is very much non-linear challenges that we're facing, and that decision-making environment needs to be able to serve individuals and groups of decision makers in this confluence of the transition economy as well as AI. So how do we connect people with information? Well, we treat that information like produce in a supermarket. And we all know that we can go into any supermarket in this country and be able to pick up fruits, vegetables that we need, and we're able to consume that at that moment in time. We're not getting bananas that were 6 weeks old or 3 weeks away from being ripe. We could go and pick this stuff up, consume it straight away. This is how we see performance information. And the shoppers are different decision makers who all have their own recipes that they need to make. And so we keep that perishability of this information in mind, because what we need to surface has to be immediately consumable for the decision makers who are asking for it. So I won't dwell on this, but we often hear these three challenges around cybersecurity, data integrity, and user experience as to why AI is a challenge to introduce or it fails altogether. And we'll talk about how we address those three. And what it's meant is that we're making decisions, we're leaving money on the table because we make decisions too late. It's too difficult. The incremental gains that we get based on the extraordinary effort that we make just simply isn't worth it. And we end up doing the same thing. And so I want to address how we're making that information accessible and useful through our AI product, so we can break this cycle of leaving money on the table, only to end up doing the same thing over and over and over again. So a couple of analogies that have often been used for AI supports. One is that butler, where the individual comes and gives you anything that you ask for. Well, we don't like that analogy because what you need and what you want are two different things. The co-pilot, again, I think has connotations for safety critical industries such as ourselves, where handing over responsibility to an AI agent isn't something that people are comfortable with. They want the accountability to remain with the individuals who are taking those decisions. And that's what we've landed on the caddy as a really useful analogy and what we want to emulate on a golf course. And caddies are fantastic because they're able to help you navigate the shot that you're making at that time. They're able to help you understand the literal lay of the land that's in front of you and make you aware of hidden hazards that you can't see. They've seen people like you make similar decisions or make similar shots, but at the end of the day, the caddy gives you the club, steps back, and lets you make the shot. And this is the analogy that we like, and we've co-opted that caddy into an acronym as to what we deliver: contextual automation and direct dialogue information. So where we've got caddy in operation right now in three basic areas. One around servicing our oil and gas clients in terms of operational excellence. We're doing some task automation, and then focusing on governance, risk, and compliance. Being able to weave all of the things that we're doing together to be able to demonstrate that we don't just know what the requirements are, but we're meeting them, and we're meeting them in real time, and we can share that information with the variety of stakeholders that now exist in the transition economy. So making that information accessible and useful. The user experience is quite simple. We can summarize that information with citations that are coming from our clients' organizations. And so we've looked at this, and if we think about information that's in a management system, we think of 8 elements. But from a digital standpoint, we see 4 key repositories of information within an organization. Whether it's real-time data, so from our operating systems or the environment, records, resources, it's processes and procedures, and reports. And what our caddy does is it takes all of those different systems and connects with all of those different systems that exist. And that this picture is purposely blurred for the sake of privacy. But this is a systems map of one of our clients. And all of those clouds represent a different technology, a different point solution that's being used. So this has grown by factors of 10 over the last 10, 15 years. So in order to be able to find that information, retrieve that information, it's a massive challenge. But each of those individual, let's call it components, digital components of the management system, will find their way into one of these 4 repositories. Now, it's not completely mutually exclusive, these 4 repositories, but generally speaking, this is what we find. And what our caddy is able to do is then interrogate, analyze the query, and then interrogate into those 4 repositories to be able to retrieve the information that's required, and then summarize that, and then get that back to the individual who made that query.
So Mike, a question here, if you don't mind. Does that information or the owner's information have to be in a certain format? Is there a limit on that side?
No, we urge you actually not to do anything with your way your data are organized, your information is organized, because we can go in and we can connect with a variety of different systems, and so no, we don't. There doesn't need to be perfect structure, perfect organization, and I often say to clients, whatever you do, don't reorganize your information in order to get an AI project started. The power of Caddy is it's able to navigate and sift through however this information is organized. And however many people are on this call, let's say there are 15 people on this call, if we were all asked, and we were all working for the same organization and asked to retrieve a certain item of information, we would have 15 different mental models as to A, where that item should reside, and B, the pathway I should take to go and retrieve it. And so with Caddy, it removes the need to undergo all those expensive document hierarchy reorganizations, whatever they may be called, and then the training that goes into that afterwards.
So one more question.
I hope I've addressed your question.
Yes, you did. Wonderful. One more question, though. There is always talk about the quality of data and how data needs to be conditioned and cleaned prior to its use in the system. What's the situation here?
Yeah, I think the classic adage here is all garbage in, garbage out, right?
Right.
And what that ignores is the fact that in order for an item to find its way into one of these 4 repositories, there's a number of quality control channels that already exist within large, complex organizations. Records, for example, just aren't musings of somebody from finance's thoughts, right? This is something that has gone through quality control channels to be able to be then lifted into its final format. And Caddy is really only scraping from those finalized, approved documentation. So again, that notion of we don't have great data. That's not the point. Again, if you're not starting this because you're waiting for perfect data, you're going to be waiting for a long time.
Perfect. Thank you. This is very useful.
So what I think I'll do is I'll just pause there and see if there are any other questions. And then what I can do is just walk through a quick demonstration of the Caddy in action and get people's thoughts on that. So if there are no questions, I'll carry on. If they are, please feel free to enter in the chat, or can people...
actually, chat is the best way to communicate.
Whilst we're waiting for any question, I'll move over to our archive. So this is the basic interface, and this is for an oil and gas drilling company deployment. So this is very specific to their data. So going back to this model, we're really only focusing on the resources here for the purposes of this demonstration. They've been kind enough to allow us to demonstrate this, but as you can appreciate, if we were to get into, say, records or reports or real-time data, that would be sensitive information. So we're just going to stick to the resources that we've set up for them. And again, this is all internal to their organization. So if we were to say, what needs to be in a lift plan, for example, offshore drilling, you're lifting things all the time, and not from a manual handling standpoint, but the rig cranes. And what Caddy is able to do is then provide all of the necessary elements of that lifting operation. And then it cites where that particular piece of information has been lifted from, and summarizes those citations at the end of the summary. This is a great way for teams who are executing task X, and that could be looking at oil discharge, looking at environmental regulations, whatever that may be, and then they can see where that information is coming from. And if we were to ask somebody, if we were to ask the lifting superintendent to come up with this, he or she may be able to rattle some of this off verbatim, but to create that summary, to go through all of these documents and then present that summary, it would take 2 or 3 hours. So we feel that this is a great way for folks to get those summaries. And what it's really doing is it's connecting people to the processes of how to do the job right. And I know we've got some human factors folks on this call, and so you'd be familiar with the concept of organizational drift. Yeah, and that's the difference between how work is expected to be done and how work is actually done. And part of the reason that drift is so prevalent in large, complex organizations is that just connecting people with the information they need to do the job right. And that's as simply as I can put it, just to do the job right. And if the job's done right, it's done safely, it's done reliably, it's done sustainably. The friction associated with that is rife across many organizations. So to be able to strip that away and connect people so easily, not only are we giving them their time back, but the chances that we're going to increase, let's call it procedural discipline, increases as well as a result. So again, we reduce the friction, we reduce the opportunity for what we call social working practices. And again, that might be completing an environmental permit, that may be lifting, that may be whatever task there is to carry out within your organization. Those social working practices tend to expand that drift. And so here's a way to be able to tighten that up. And then I can then go and ask a follow-up question. If I say who is responsible, sorry. So if I just say who's responsible for this as an opening question, there's no context to that. But what CADI is able to do is to link the context to the previous query and the previous summary, and then present a response, which again is cited throughout, and the summary citations are here below. So that's just a very quick example and quick demonstration of what we're doing. Anecdotally, the feedback from the sites have the operating rigs, which we're now live on, for dotted around the world, has been very positive. Some of the comments have been, well, why didn't you do this 5 years ago? And a couple of the other comments is, well, this is great for us to use as a pre-job brief. This is great for us to just to check that we've got all of the elements for our environmental permit in place. So it's being used in a variety of different ways that, frankly, we didn't expect. And endearingly, they're using CADI as a verb on many of the rigs. So I think when we get to that point, that's a good measure of success.
Yeah, this is excellent tool, Michael. Is there any limitation in terms of prompts? Like,
if I put in a question that's completely spurious to what they're doing, and since we're in a new Premier League season, I'll ask, will Liverpool win the league? I'll just spell Liverpool correctly here. And what's going to return is that you're basically telling me that you're an idiot. Ask me something that's relevant to your job, right? So we've been able to take out a lot of the spurious requests, and again, the requests that the queries that do go through, CADI's not memorizing the exact answers, but it's going through a repeatable process to be able to interrogate the relevant repositories of information to be able to present back that summary.
So one more question. So
Please.
same tool. First of all, is this your standard interface? The opening window where you had the couple of boxes, chat with your data. Is it your standard interface? Do you need to set this up for every company differently, or you have this standard interface?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty standard. As you can see, the interface is nothing elaborate.
Right.
And what they will get offshore is a little bit more sort of background information on that as well. And these kind of sample questions are a way to help prompt new users understand how this works. As you can appreciate, we didn't want to introduce this through the training department because there's so many negative connotations with training in large complex organizations. We very much took the approach of Uber has millions of users, but not one of them has had to take the mandatory sort of 5-day Uber account user training course, right? Because it's so intuitive. We've tried to take that intuitive design approach to serve users better. Because again, I talked about friction. If we introduce additional elements of friction here, we're going to see usage numbers drop. We're going to see social working practices increase, and that procedural discipline will drop across the site as well. Forgive me if I've already mentioned this, but what the organization wanted to do when it first started exploring it with AI was to give people an hour back a day. So they had done a bunch of analyses, and they said, people are looking for the information they need to do their job right for quite some time, over an hour a day. We want to give them an hour back. And the early returns are that we've made a significant dent in that hour simply through making the procedures around how to do the job right immediately available through a tablet, through a mobile device, or through desktop.
Absolutely. I was, for part of my career, graphical user interface designer, so I can definitely appreciate the ability to interact with the intuitive screens. No, this is excellent tool. One more question. So would this same interface be used by, let's say, financial department and HR department and technical department? So it just, okay.
Yeah, the user experience doesn't change. And again, I talked with a variety of industries that I've been able to work in my career. This is the technology that I wanted, whether I was, top floor, offshore, underground, or the shop floor, right? This is what I was always looking for. And that coupled with our visualization, we're making great strides into being able to kind of exercise some of those professional demons that I've built up in my early career.
No, excellent tool. I always say filing is easy, retrieving is difficult, but now this tool makes it really easy. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm assuming you're going to talk about risk management further down.
Okay,
so I'll save the question for that part.
All right, let's do that. Again, one of the challenges here is the tight cyber requirements, and the objection that we hear a lot is, we can't have any kind of AI agent we can't let it into our organization because it's going to step outside of our cyber walls. And so what we do is what we've done is we've dropped the caddy into, again, I'm using a golf course as an analogy here, but that golf course represents that organization. So it never leaves that organization. So it never crosses those cyber walls. For two reasons. One, you don't want to expose it to potentially spurious information from the internet, and secondly, you don't want to expose your data to public view as well. So, from a security standpoint, we've spent a lot of time getting this right, and our experience in biotech, our experience in the media space, our experience in sensitive industries has given us the tools to be able to provide that assurance, very, very easily. I can't stress enough how important this is to so many organizations, but we think that we've got that sorted by leaving caddy within that organization. and I talked about the perfect data problem already, but just to one point, like every single organization has a unique digital topography based on the systems that it has. So being able to go in and easily connect to all of these different data systems is part and parcel why Caddy has been so successful in the deployments that that we've had. Right. So if we just quick comparison on the in the market, there's that option to self-configure the large language models. Again, there's the challenge of the cyber piece. And if you go off the shelf, what we've tended to find is that there might be a few systems that link quite easily. There'll be some systems that require a lot of work, but there'll be a whole tranche of systems that are almost impossible to connect. And so you're not completing the picture. That summary is going to be incomplete for your users. And then from a boutique standpoint, which we consider ourselves very much to be, we've been fortunate enough because we planted our AI roots 15 years ago. And a lot of companies have just sort of planted their AI roots just recently. And the work that we've been doing in computer vision, data analysis, machine learning, has culminated into our ability to deliver on these projects that we've done thus far. So I think this is where we'll get into the risk piece, Nermina. But again, those three areas that I talked about in the introduction, in that operational excellence piece, we're really just answering three basic questions. What needs to happen to do the job right? What's happening? What's happened? Okay, what situations, what incidents, what observations or audits information can we glean from there? And then what's happening? That's around the control performance. So that control performance is really helping us understand whether we have these risks managed to our level of tolerance.
So before,
yeah,
I'm sorry, before you move to risks, the operational excellence piece, actually everything sounds to me like the health and safety application would be, I mean, what you already demonstrated is part of that overall mandate. But can you drill a little bit more in terms of health and safety application as a part of the operational excellence?
Well, some of these things may have it may be initiated by health and safety concern. Mm-hmm. But again, what needs to happen to do the job right? If the job is done right, then it's being done safely, it's being done reliably, it's being done sustainably. And again, let's not think of the personal safety challenges here or the process challenges, but the risk to your environment compliance with an environmental permit. You're missing out steps in satisfying that permit could lead to fines or operational penalties. So that operational excellence piece is really important because what organizations need to try and do is line up and align decision making with operational excellence. And to do that, they need to identify where are their goal conflicts between the objectives of the organization, the decision making environment that they're putting decision makers in, and the incentives that are there for their team. And what leaders need to be looking for is where are those goal conflicts? Where can we kick those out? And again, to drive alignment between decision making and the objectives of operational excellence.
Okay.
So I'll move on to the task automation piece. This is where you start to support raising permits. A lot of the administrative tasks, I was just on a call today where the complaint is, we're still using paper. And that's true across multiple sectors. But the contractor management is a huge challenge, not just in terms of the assessing whether they meet all the requirements, and I'll touch on that here in a moment, but the onboarding, the induction, and then the permitting from there. The machine computer vision, again, that is helping to analyze all the CCTV footage that goes on within an organization to identify where you've got those goal conflicts or those social working practices, or where you have those unsafe situations. And the last one around governance, risk, and compliance. This is an important one, particularly for the mining sector. When we think of, like, for example, you think about tailings dam, right? There are so many external requirements that we're operating to, and from a governance perspective, we need to be able to see how the performance of our assets, how our assets are performing across our organization. And then, that means, looking at design engineering. That's looking at all of the TARP analytics. Then when you get into the risk, this is where CADI is supporting that understanding of the design integrity, the failures and controls, and then the TARP management. And then the compliance piece is we're able to go back into our systems and demonstrate how we're compliant with all of these different complicated requirements that are coming from multiple international bodies, industry bodies, etc. And so therefore, we should be able to see that governance, risk, and compliance more as a live portal and not a series of past snapshots that have been captured in a report. So this is where we see three great starting points for how we can take an organization from zero to AI in 6 weeks. And this is typically how we kick off our initial project with a new client. We focus a lot on understanding the needs of the users through the design, discovery, and the architecture and planning phase. And then the configuration is where we do all of those connections, the digital plumbing, and then we get into the testing and launch. And so, if I can kind of throw out to the group, I've kind of talked about what are some starting points that we have, but based on the past 35 minutes or so, where would you start within your organization? Where would be a challenge that you would have? I'm certainly very interested to know that, and would be happy to take on any questions that relate to this question or not.
Okay, please type your question in the chat box, and I can. I'm really eager to hear a little bit about risk. Fear to apply. Risk management is something that we are not taking full advantage of, simply because the procedure for risk management is such that doesn't really jive with what we do daily. We are daily managing risks, yet we have this cumbersome register that is being reviewed, I'm going to say twice a year at the best.
Maybe once a quarter.
Yeah, if you're really good at that. And you do have regular follow-ups, but it's far cry from what it should be. So I'm just curious how this tool can bridge the gap or change that whole process of risk management.
Well, I think if we take a look at risk, the first thing is look at ISO 31000, it is around context, right? And making all the information contextual, and that is of utmost importance for when we're rolling out our AI product here. But then when we get into the identify, assess, control, and then the monitor piece, those four classic boxes of risk management, so many organizations go through the administrative exercise of identifying the risks and doing the assessments. Some of them will say, well, we know what controls are in place, but knowing how well those controls are operating at any one moment in time. Take the tailings dam as an example. That is a serious challenge because you're having to connect so many different data sources within your organization to be able to provide that response. And the response, well, nothing bad's happened, so therefore we must be brilliant, no longer satisfies in the transition economy. we've got to be able to demonstrate in detail how how those controls are operating, how they're functioning, and the effect that they're having on the risk exposure to any given risk in the organization.
So, are you saying that your tool is monitoring live data? So, if the controls are not performing as assumed, and that has to be configured somewhere as well, that you would get some sort of prompt information.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, and again, I think this goes to weak signal detection. And one of the features or one of the challenges of a complex organization is that you have to take a quality assurance approach to control performance rather than a quality control approach. You can't wait for a failed widget to come off the line to be able to then backtrack and figure out what happened. What you need to be looking for are those weak signals. And so therefore the ability for the organization to probe its own systems, to look for where those weak signals are, and then you'll be able to listen for those. And so when I say listen, I mean this is the organization has the institutional capacity to receive new information, consider that information, and prioritize that information to then determine what intervention is going to be required.
Okay, so again, you have live data feeding through your system and alerting all the decision makers that there is a change in the system that needs to be taken care of.
Yeah, in our
Type of
product
thing.
visualization platform, yeah, we can certainly link that up, and then once that prompt comes, then Caddy is there to support on what do we do now?
Exactly.
What actions do we need to take? So that combination, this is where we're going to go is overlay Caddy onto our performance visualization, and then that supports that technology that was just technology to one person. Now it's a group of people looking at interfacing with technology. So it needs to be able to serve groups of decision makers at the same time.
Okay, so it's automated process. The other area that, in my experience, I always kind of struggled with are lessons learned. We have this big session at the end of the project, usually at the beginning of the project, understanding what was done in the past, which lessons we can apply to the current project, and then it goes into a file. And then you, similar to risk, you review it once in a while and at the end of the project. But being able to actually source a person and or a group of people that worked on similar things and actually came up with good solutions, A, B, find some good description of how to solve a particular problem, let alone how to how to ask or how to define the prompt for the particular problem would be of enormous help. So is there anything you can offer in that area?
Yeah, and I think when we look at project organizations who have their their post project lessons learned report, that usually gets shelved, and then it's a real struggle to be able to contextualize based on the current project, what's useful information there. And so this is where, if that's in play and Caddy's connected to that, be able to summarize the relevant lessons and be able to present them so that you're, if it's an estimation challenge, if it's a feasibility challenge, if it's a commissioning challenge, that you're able to then get the relevant, timely, context-rich information from those lessons, as opposed to being pointed to the the lessons learned document, which could be hundreds of pages, which you're now sifting through, which again adds friction to to the experience.
No, absolutely. These are yeah. these are huge time-saving opportunities here. Okay, so these are two of my pet peeves: lessons learned, risk management. I can do better, among the other
Yeah,
things I
I think
would say.
you wouldn't be alone. I think a lot of organizations struggle with those two things. And again, I think where we're going here is really just being able to cut the noise and give those individuals who may be a risk owner, maybe a control owner, maybe a frontline supervisor, maybe an asset owner, the information they need to intervene. Because when anything has gone wrong in hindsight, you say, "Oh well, had I known that, I would have taken this. I would have stepped in. I would have intervened." And so, really driving that capacity to probe, listen, and intervene at scale is critical. And then not just knowing that you've taken that intervention, but being able to measure how well that intervention has sustained within your organization. Were there any unintended consequences, knock-on effects that were triggered by that intervention? All of this is really important to provide that assurance, provide that confidence and comfort that the information that we're getting, that our people are using to make decisions, is of high quality. Our people are taking the right actions. They're getting after the biggest gaps, the loudest, weakest signals in the organization, and that those interventions are having the intended effect.
So let me ask you this question: how well your tool works with the financial data, or should I say, actually, well, financial data, whether it's budget or some other indication of the financial health estimates is something that on a project is a big deal always on the study phase. In particular, how well do you work? The tool works with the numbers. I'm going to say.
Yeah, and again, I think the process is always the same. So we're frankly agnostic to the information that comes in, uh,
Mhm.
but we're creating that repeatable process to go and then interrogate the relevant information. As we expand what we're doing with our clients, they're asking us to put through their Power BI data, different data sets that are perhaps unique to their organization. Again, lending to that analogy, that unique digital topography of an organization's golf course, and we see the same process taking place. And we want to be able to interrogate that information, and we want to be able to surface the information that's required. The challenge with a lot of financial data, a lot of quantitative data, is that because it's so the insights are basically encased in within a spreadsheet or within Power BI, you're reliant on the analyst who created the document, or you yourself have to be deeply immersed in that content to be able to surface the right the right information from any given Excel file or spreadsheet. And with what we're doing in the AI space is that we're able not just to take summarize information from language or from text, but also from charts, from graphs, from images, from PNIDs, to be able to then surface the information that's required.
Now you mentioned PNIDs, so I have a pile of questions there, but not going to ask. Now we don't
Okay.
have time for that.
Yeah.
It's a good indication which way this tool can be used, because as you mentioned, there are lots of I'm going to say damn pictures that hold the information, but unless you have a tool to actually read and interpret that picture, then that's how you started. So that image interpretation or the analysis is really something that I would expect is your forte.
Yeah, and again, it's been something we've been fortunate enough to be doing for the past past 15 years. So yeah, computer vision is very much in our wheelhouse, but that's goes to that task automation piece. Is that we're able to train the model to be able to look for, again, those weak signals, those undesirable situations where an organization can step in and intervene, whether that's through design, whether that's through engineering, whether that's through education, and not have to react to an unwanted event.
Excellent. Maybe it will be interesting just to mention the your beginnings with the CNN magic wall.
Yeah, I think I may have mentioned that at the onset, but one of the big benefits for CNN there wasn't necessarily kind of a new cool way to visualize election data, but it was to be able to slash the production costs of that by 90%. Whereas before, it was a green screen with a carefully scripted speech, effectively, and a slideshow. And to change anything, took a huge push from the organizations. You can imagine they'd have to go and introduce the slide. They'd have to go and look at the script that was being reported out. And before us, it was 90% scripted. It was 10% improv. After we came along, that flipped. It was 90% improv, 10% scripted. And now it's much more conducive to how humans think, how organizations operate, where you're looking for lateral information and you're not just progressing through one node after the next down a linear path. And so to be able to surface the relevant information and present it in parallel rather than just pushing data in series is something we've been doing for, again, a number of years.
Well, that's my pet peeve actually with the schedule. Schedules are linear. Reality is non-linear. So
it's not, as I touched on with the transition economy, right? Where, we operate complex non-linear systems. So we can't take that production economy mindset when we're creating decision-making environments.
So you just mentioned an important piece of information: 90% reduction in the cost. That's
in the production costs.
Yeah, that's an amazing saving. So is there anything else you can share with in terms of the achieved return?
Yeah, I think I may
or savings rather
touched on with our oil and gas client that the objective was to give everybody back an hour a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody getting back an hour a day, if they were to commit that to productive time, that's a $65 million in annual return, given some basic assumptions. But they're seeing now we can ramp this up to 2-3 hours a day per person, and that's real production. Those are meters drilled. That's tons produced or tons moved, ounces produced. That this is this again is why we focus on that operational excellence piece, and really trying to break some bottlenecks in those decision making environments that allow us to operate as we expect and not drift to the norm, which a lot of companies in our sector have challenges to do.
Yeah, that's true. Going back to same old habits is really main reason why adoption of new technology fails, in my mind. I mean, I should say one of the reasons is that human factor.
Yeah, I go back to the friction piece, right?
Okay.
And if a lot of point solutions are designed with the buyer in mind, right? That buyer who says, "Oh, I just need to get this information so I can do my monthly report." But what that does is it ignores the needs of the consumer or the user of the system. And so again, we were very cautious about what friction we're adding into this because again, we're trying to strip away a lot of friction between just connecting people with the information they need to do their job right. Simple as that. And so I think a lot of the pushback that organizations get is not necessarily from the Luddites or those, quote unquote resistant to change. It's those who are see additional work, additional friction to be able to go and use the system. I understand where the pushback is coming from.
Right. No, it's just human nature that you fall back on something that you are familiar with, not necessarily because you want to, but just the way we are wired, I guess. So
Indeed.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So oil and gas being such health and safety, I said, environment or prone to accidents. Did you get any feedback on the health and safety statistics?
Yeah, we're not going to get there. We're not going to get there just yet.
Mhm.
This will have. When we look at what we're measuring, what we're measuring the rollout. Is it working? Are people using it? I think
Mhm.
we'll say yes to both of those. And then as we scale, we can then start to look at, are we giving people time back? Are we, uh, helping to, with the safe, reliable, sustainable execution of critical tasks offshore, or that could be critical tasks underground, or critical tasks in the pit, wherever that may be. Um, and and then when we look at the effect, that's where we're going to start to see kind of impact on lagging statistics. I've always generally been quite cautious about being able to attribute one variable to a bump or a dip in lagging statistics. So yeah, time will tell, but really we're focusing on the users. Are they using it? What are they asking? And we see some great opportunities in the future to be able to um, help service organizations at scale to hold up that mirror to themselves to say, okay, well, how do I see what my front line sees? Yeah, and what are people in finance? What are they querying? What are they unsure of? Because as a leader, I want to know that information because I'm looking for more information as to why that's the case. What goal conflicts can I start to remove from that get in the way of objectives, decision making environments, and the incentives to deliver the business?
Right. I just had recently a conversation with someone and confirmed my case as well that we spend so much time coming up with reports and almost no time. We are left with no time to analyze reports, analyze those financial data, the indicators, and all of that. So all of a sudden we get all these numbers, and then now what? What's the story they are telling us? And I guess one of your tagline is that you're telling the story using the data, and that's really something that we need to get to the point where we actually spend time analyzing and understanding data and what indication, what those data are indicating actually, and then what do we need to change to in our behavior or the work processes to get where we want to go. So this your tool looks like something that can help a lot in actually
Yeah, I mean,
understanding
we're,
of
we're,
data.
yeah, we're not under any illusions of grandeur. It's not a silver bullet, but what it is supporting is connecting people with information,
Correct.
and making sure that information is contextual. We're supporting automation within the organization, and delivering that information in a direct dialogue style. That's really what CAD is all about.
Okay, Michael, we are almost at the top of the hour. Thanks a lot. This was very interesting. I have still 100 questions. We'll hopefully have a chance to speak with you again. Thank you again. Please reach out to Michael at Interknowlogy for more information and further engagements. Um, that's all
Well,
for now.
thank you, Nermina, and thanks to everyone who's stayed on the call and who was on the call throughout. appreciate the opportunity to chat.
Thanks. We'll be back on 19th of September. We'll talk to Arman Koch from Earth.io, and we'll talk about the transforming the industry through their tools. Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.